Good afternoon, or whenever. It's wonderful to be there, wherever you are. I would like to open my reading with a lengthy poem about language and the creative process. The words are helpless to resist the hand that shapes them from the mist of mental veils where nightingales serenade the... well, you get the gist. When Louise Bach and Marty Smith first emailed me an invitation to appear in the 100,000 Poets for Change event, I asked myself the question that is on the mind of nearly every poet when presented with the opportunity to contribute their voice to a cultural event that might make some sort of positive difference in the world. And that is, well, just how much change are we talking here? Will it be enough to cover my transit fare? Will there be any left over for coffee? But then I realized, I saw in the message that it was possible to appear virtually and that I wouldn't have to spend anything on the subway, and I could also avoid the risk of being, say, 99,384th on the bill and have to wait till like 3 in the morning for my set. So naturally, I said, sure. It will be an honor. Count me in. I'm there. Wouldn't miss it for the world. And it is, after all, a historically significant anniversary. On this date, September 29th, in 61 BC, Pompey the Great celebrated not only his third victory over pirates, but the end of the Mithriatic War as well. And he did so on his 45th birthday. So how many of you can say on any day of the year, let alone your birthday, that you've defeated pirates for the third straight time and successfully wrapped up a war against a formidable adversary? Apparently he did cheat a little by waiting 7 months after vanquishing his foes before celebrating, just so that the date of his glorious triumphs would fall on his birthday, but, tell me you wouldn't have done the same. So after that huge all-ages bash, some 6 decades before Jesus was even a gleam in his daddy's eye, many September 29th passed without a whole lot happening. The Italo-Turkish War started in 1911. The first one, by the way, to boast aerial bombardments, now a standard feature in any respectable war. And in 1915, the first transcontinental radio telephone call was placed and presumably received. If it wasn't received, they would have had to just keep trying, because it wasn't until precisely 35 years later, on 29 September 1950, that Bell Labs created the first answering machine. Wouldn't it have freaked them out if they'd placed the first such momentous call and then heard this in response? I'm sorry, I'm not in right now, but if you'll kindly leave your name and number at the sound of the beep, I'll get back to you as soon as I return. So, as I was saying, many comparatively banal September 29th followed that very happy birthday of Pompey the obviously great in 61 BC. And then, in 1989 AD, came a scandalous event that soon became known as the slap heard round the world. That was when a Beverly Hills police officer named Paul Kramer was assaulted by celebrity Zsa Zsa Gabor after the latter was stopped while driving an unregistered Rolls-Royce without a valid license. Those of you too young to remember the events of 9/29 will need to go to your local library to consult a history textbook. But for those of us who lived through that infamous day, the shockwaves still reverberate. The notorious Gabor is now credited with firing the first salvo in the premillennial Slap-a-Cop War, which led to the militarization of the LAPD and, as of today, almost the entire police force of the United States. What does this have to do with today's event? Well, I just told you, it happened on the same date. Now, if there are no further questions, I'll get on with my reading. So I'm often asked by younger poets and sometimes older poets who don't have their shit together, where do you have your poems manufactured? Whom do you trust with your lyrical impulses? Bearing in mind that there will always be flaws when constructing something out of language, and that no word mill is infallible, I recommend the company that I've put my faith in since very early in my career, Torpor Vigil Industries. To give you some idea of their technical expertise and superior customer relations, I will read one of the letters sent to a regular poetry consumer. I receive a carbon copy of any correspondence relating to my work, which in itself is enough to set TVI apart from its competitors. This is to Stuart Ross, Chief Groomer, Proper Tales Pet Salon, 300 Division Street, Cobourg, Ontario. Dear Mr. Ross, the poems you ordered have at last arrived at our warehouse and will be shipped immediately pending your approval. We think you will find these pieces, in the surrealistic genre, to be well crafted and of a generally high caliber. Regrettably, however, one of the poems sustained some slight damage during transportation from our factory in Thetford, Ontario, to our warehouse in West Toronto. The poem in question is the one we ourselves had recommended in response to your interest in something anecdotal with a high verb count, not too dirty. The pastoral-flavored Frickett's Curve, item number 10485. Only 2 short segments have been affected, and not necessarily, I might venture, for the worse. The phrase intended to read, amber-gloved clothesline pole erectors, now reads, taffy-colored bird bath inspectors. And the line ending hose down the tracks at railway stops now ends hoe down the racks at tailor shops. While we believe these flaws to have resulted from careless handling during transit, we're investigating the possibility that the employee who produced this piece failed to abide by our plant's strict specifications regarding the proper application of semantic fixative. As none of the other poems suffered similar alterations, we cannot rule out this hypothesis. Having already kept you waiting longer than we should have liked, it will be our pleasure to ship these items free of charge the moment you give us the go-ahead. In addition, we will happily include an extra installment of the modular poem, The Turbulated Curtain. As we know from past orders, this title is among your favorites manufactured by our company. On behalf of all of us at TVI, please accept my apology for this incident, and know that in future we will do everything in our power to promptly meet your poetry needs. We thank you for your patience and understanding as we eagerly await your reply. Yours sincerely, Roxanne Bloor, Chief Executive Supervisor of Customer Service, Department of Poetry and Other Engineered Texts, Torpor Vigil Industries, Toronto, Ontario. So I'm proud to be associated with Torpor Vigil Industries. What I'm going to read next, unless something dramatically unexpected happens in the next few seconds, is a piece from an exceptionally rare book available in extremely unlimited quantities, only from the publisher and one of its imprints, and as well as their official distributor. and from bookstores and online literary merchants, random Value Village outlets, public libraries, the occasional yard sale, my mother Marilyn in Sarnia, and of course myself, should you care to have a copy signed after the reading. It's a sort of self-help book for people with low self-esteem. It's entitled "The Least You Can Do Is Be Magnificent." This volume contains not only inspiring tales such as The Tin of Fancy Excrements, A Journey of the Self, but also these motivational proverbs and affirmations I call beautiful thoughts. Clear your mind of all thoughts, except the ones you are currently thinking. There is nothing you can't become, so don't even bother not becoming everything. Always be kind to strangers. You never know when you might meet the Buddha in disguise, or some asshole who's going to report you. It comes screaming down the centuries to greet us, and we're never home when it arrives. There is a universe in which I iron the same pair of pants over and over again forever. We've got enough bombs to blow up the world 100 times, and yet we don't have the guts to do it. He chose to live in the 19th century, and they could find no law against it. Most things don't happen. "Mommy," said the enraptured little girl, "I want to climb up every drain pipe in the world." It has now been over 7 hours since I began writing this sentence. One needs one's higher faculties to determine whatever it is one is doing down there on the floor. If you can hear these words outside of your head, call the number on the back of your radio. He took his time-lapse capsules and watched the boat race from an unfinished bridge. Her new hairdo is as dainty as an amoeba's orgasm. We watched all their movies down the train. The overindulgent pop star died in a pool of his own design. It turned out she was just a product of her own imagination. A heavy smoker, he one day just collapsed at freefall into his own footprint. Nature has gone wild. We're going to have to teach it a lesson. Wholesome goodness from the people who'd rather see you dead. After his meteoric rise to obscurity, he went down in mystery. Tonight she is sad. She is all over the world. Build an engine with words. Let it make you speak. Now, if you'll take out your copies of Floors of Enduring Beauty and turn to page 31, you can follow along as I read this next piece, which extends the theme of self-help. These are 117 steps to instant gratification. 1. Become sensitive to your environment. 2. Measure and analyze your current status. 3. Articulate the desired outcomes. 4. Eliminate all stress. 5. Give up expecting things from other people or your life. 6. Install lights and switches to ensure all your stairways are well lit. 7. Randomize your sensory inputs. 8. Exfoliate. 9. Record all the names you can think of on a sheet of paper and a brief note as to why you need to forgive them. 10. Write motivational texts on flashcards and stick them on your dashboard. 11. Encourage unrestricted breastfeeding. 12. Get your bunny used to being handled. 13. Focus on fruits. 14. See for yourself how your medication interacts with other drugs. 15. Prepare a checklist of the objects you might want to look at. 16. Always leave home well groomed. 17. Check out the street conditions. Is the pavement even? 18. Use a stick to check the firmness of the ground in front of you. 19. Know the warning signal and have a battery-powered radio. 20. Encourage earthworms and microorganisms. 21. Find out what contaminants are in your local water supply and your home's water. 22. Recognize your tendency towards sin. 23. Fertilize naturally. 24. Always call local emergency personnel when someone is injured in an electrical accident. 25. Do a reality check. 26. Avoid being scalded by steam from a boiling pot. 27. Pare down the virus factor. Especially important these days. I hear there's some kind of bug going around. 28. Encourage innovation by emphasizing small-scale technological solutions. 29. Know exactly how you feel about what happened and be able to articulate what about the situation is not okay. 30. Don't crowd around candidates who are seeking the Holy Ghost. 31. Use plenty of water. 32. I need water. Whenever it rains, I get very thirsty. I'll back up one. Yes, 30. Don't crowd around candidates who are seeking the Holy Ghost. 31. Use plenty of water. 32. Admit to another person in confidence and in the presence of God the exact nature of your faults. 33. Conquer... You scared me for a second there. Just go back to sleep. That's it. Sorry. Who did I knock down? Oh, I knocked down Diane McGregor. Terrible. My apologies, Diane. Okay, use plenty of water. Admit to another person in confidence and in the presence of God the exact nature of your faults. 33. Conquer procrastination. 34. Save major polishing for later. 35. Devise marketing strategies for your target market. 36. Don't tell traumatized people that they are lucky it wasn't worse. 37. Develop a personal philosophy of time. 38. Install a firewall. 39. Identify not only your skills, but also your deepest values, interests, and motivational preferences. 40. Sneeze into your elbow. 41. Learn to accept that your loss is real. 42. Recognize that positive change can be stressful and even frightening. Change. I get it now. change? 100,000 poets? Okay. 43. Flick switches with the side of your hand or wrist. 44. Be sure that your scissors are nice and sharp. 45. Tickle a baby. 46. Practice summarizing to a friendly colleague a paper you just read. 47. Avoid sharp corners on the ends of countertops, especially islands and peninsulas. 48. Implore the mercy of God by prayer and fasting. 49. Cover chicken parts in lemon juice. 50. Slim your silhouette. 51. If you find a wild animal in your home, do not trap or corner it. 52. Have eye contact, but don't stare. 53. Watch for sod, webworms, and other insects. 54. Listen to the radio or television for information. 55. Evaluate your widgets. 56. I'm going to stop right there, very spontaneously, and pretend to make an unplanned segue to some thoughts I have on the subject of that last directive, or the one before, listen to the radio or television for information. I still say yes, listen to the radio and TV for information, but please don't listen to them for truth and reality. My intro to this book of selected writings concludes with a cheerfully trepidatious little sermon that I wrote in 2016 on what happened to be National Lighthouse Day in the USA. It's an exhortation to, among others, free thinkers of all ages, races, sexualities, and creeds. I would like to point out with the most humble and sincere arrogance that I composed this tract a full 156 days before a certain sociopathic, bungling, fraudulent businessman and TV personality with a penchant for grabbing strangers by the crotch, having risen to the most influential salaried position in the world, popularized the phrase fake news. I have only the deepest admiration and respect for the many honest, intrepid, and conscientious journalists who are out there just doing their best to wend their way through this century's chaos of propaganda, disinformation, and lies, and to do so with, some integrity. Free Assange already. But damn if that otherwise deplorable buffoon didn't have a point. Hardly enough to redeem him or even place him above the bomb-happy puppets who preceded his tenure in the awful orifice, the Oval Office. It's a hint of sanity, at least, to question the presiding purveyors of consensus reality. But that skepticism, however, has to be applied across the board. There are narratives being spun on all sides, and it's reasonable to have doubts. Caveat emptor and all that. So rationality, curiosity, and a willingness to be wrong will take you far. Anyways, here's what I had to spout on that day, the 7th of August, just over 4 years ago. By the time you read this, there may well be a lot going down. For many in the world, there always is. Know that much of what you will be shown is not, technically speaking, real, and that news does not equal truth. These are days of smoking mirror, Tezcatlipoca in Toltec and Aztec lore, a time of much illusion and conflict, of smoke and mirrors. But through this dark looking glass lie adventures beyond our imaginings. We might have to descend from our gleamingly antennaed ivory towers a while, even as they crumble around us. But there will be new and better, more lucent and inclusive habitations to build when the dust settles. Meanwhile, shine a light from the highest floor and look out toward the future. A future that, despite the odds, and you'll just have to trust me on this one, will be surely, at least, magnificent. Thank you, and good night, or whatever.